Hey, good morning. Our last day before vacation. So if I forget to say it, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Can't wait till we get back on the 5th, and everybody hopefully will be back. New seating arrangements, all kinds of things. We're looking forward to starting a new workbook and into sound. We got some really cool labs. So I just wish everybody a blessed and Merry Christmas, and that you have a really, really good time. And so with that, I am going to show our Science World videos, which is what I'm going to do today. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen here. Let's see here. I'm still getting used to this stuff, by the way. Okay, let's see here. And it is here. Okay, so our first one is, our first article is about Amazon and their delivery. And you know, their new thing now is like you can give them your code to your garage and they can put it inside your garage, which is supposed to be safe from people, you know, taking your packages off the door. But is it really safe giving somebody you don't know the access to you inside your garage, which would be the access probably to the inside your house? So anyway, this is just their fulfillment center. And by the way, we do have an Amazon fulfillment center in Indianapolis. Okay, so here we go. These warehouses can cover an area the size of 17 football fields and contain millions of items. Notice the animation and technology. They use robots. Robots bring shelves directly to employees who select ordered items. Some Amazon centers contain up to 14 miles of conveyor belts to move items and orders. I think that's amazing. I mean, it almost looks like a supernatural highway kind of thing. And whoever created all that, right? The computer programming. Items arrive at a packaging station and are scanned and boxed. Their workers also get paid very good here in Indianapolis. The packages are sorted, and I think they make around $15 an hour and loaded onto trucks, and then it goes up from there as far as their pay. These packages are ready to be delivered. And again, so that's a neat. That would be probably a demanding job, but a good job. Okay, so that's our first video, and that's over Amazon. Our next video is Polaroids, and I do have a Polaroid. I'm going to get my Polaroid out. I don't have any film. I need to buy some new film. My film was so old it wasn't working. I tried it this morning, but I will get it out. So this is about Polaroids.
Edwin Land said he got the inspiration for the idea of instant photography when he was walking with his daughter, and he took a photograph, and she said,
"Daddy, why can't I see the picture right away?"
That was in 1943. He figured out a way to develop both the negative and the positive image in 1 minute and produce a dry, stabilized print. That was the revolutionary part of it.
Look right here now. Fine.
The exhibit is taken from the Polaroid Corporate Archives, which was donated to the Harvard Business School in 2006. And the archive includes this absolutely wonderful collection of test photographs. And there's just this spontaneous quality to the images. And I wonder, what did people think when they were taking those pictures? Because this was before the commercial release of the camera.
You'll always have people who question as you pull this tab out. What is the tab?
Edwin Land, he was a real Renaissance man. I always say he was a scientist and inventor and an entrepreneur and a CEO and then an aesthete and a humanist, and that was all rolled into one. And he was thinking about all those things at the same time. Land was really interested in creating a democratic art form and means of expression. He really believed that everyone had the desire to express themselves artistically, and the land camera was one way for them to do this.
That's the nice thing about a Polaroid land camera. You never have to worry about negatives because you can get copies and large ones right from the original print. 60-second photography is the most exciting kind of photography around today.
Okay, so I think that's so cool. And those, that's footage from, the 1940s and 1950s. And of course, today we still have them. They're out there. There are many versions, but they're still doing the same exact thing that he invented. And again, we just sometimes get our ideas from the least likely places, right? His daughter, and that prompted him to make the Polaroid. So, and we still have them today. Okay, so that's one of the articles. This one is, I know it's sort of about elections, but actually it's more than that. It's about how animals, certain varieties of animals actually vote how they are going to do things, and similar to sort of what we do, but not the exact same. So this one's on wild democracy.
This November, people across the United States are casting their ballots for the nation's next president. That's because America is a democracy, a nation where we elect leaders by voting. But it turns out, people aren't the only ones that vote. Scientists have discovered that other animals hold their own types of elections. These are olive baboons. They live in grasslands across Africa. They travel in groups called troops as they roam around to find food. Different members of the troop can lead the group from place to place. But sometimes, these leaders want to go in different directions. So what do the animals do? They vote. Here's how it works. Each baboon leader starts walking in the direction it thinks the troop should travel. The leaders wait to see if the rest of the troop will follow. If the difference in direction is less than 90 degrees, the troop strikes a compromise. They all take a path directly down the middle. But what if the difference is greater than 90 degrees? That's when the voting starts. Instead of compromising, each baboon in the troop decides which leader it agrees with. Then it votes with its feet by walking over to that leader. Which side has more votes? Whichever group of baboons is the biggest. The direction with the most votes wins, even if that side has only one more baboon than the other. This is a democracy, after all. The whole troop follows the leader they just elected. The next time they go on the move, the whole process starts over again. Baboons aren't the only animals that make decisions democratically. Pigeons, buffalo, honeybees, and other species have their own ways of voting on where to go or what to do. Studying how animals communicate without spoken language can help scientists understand how human behaviors developed. Whether it's people heading to the polls or baboons on the grassland, there's democracy in action all over the place.
So this one, and I was looking, excuse me, I was looking through the article. The bees do it by the way they fly, it's just so cool. So that's another article that is a possibility to read about. Okay, let's see, now go on. Okay, so this is an Indian, and he is a cook, and an American Indian, I should say. And so this is about him.
Cedar braised elk really is a great representation of the indigenous flavors of Minneapolis. It's really got that embodiment and that aroma of being outdoors, and we just wanted to put that into this meal. My name is Sean Sherman. I am the owner of The Sous Chef, and we are in Minneapolis. I grew up on Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and I am a member of the Ogallala Lakota Sioux tribe. And after a few years of my chef career, I realized that I really didn't know much about my own heritage, and it sent me on a quest to figure out what were my Lakota ancestors eating. It was really important to try to figure out what are Native American foods and how can we utilize them today. I grew up with wild game, so it'd be hard to say when I first had elk, so I was probably very young. It's always been around the dinner table throughout most of my life. And a dish like this with the cedar braised elk, we just really want people to understand that no matter where you are in North America, there's indigenous history and flavors, and we can bring back a lot of that knowledge and food and showcase a wonderful history of indigenous ingredients. What I love about elk is such a rich protein, and it really has a lot of flavor. We wanted to use a piece that was going to be very lean with a little bit of fat so that we can slow roast it and let it stew and let it fall apart. The first thing we're going to do is just cut the elk down into manageable chunks. Season this pan with a little bit of sunflower oil and sear the elk just to get a little bit of caramelization around it. We season it with just a little bit of smoked salt to kind of give the sense of cooking over fire. To a braising pan, add the elk, add local maple syrup just to sweeten the broth a little bit, add the water, and add a little bit more smoked salt, and then we're going to put the cedar boughs over it. And the cedar boughs are really going to release a deep, rich flavor, and it's really going to smell like the forest. I'm going to put a lid on the braising pan. We're going to put this in the oven at a really low temperature and let it sit for about 14 hours. And it's really just going to be so nice and tender by the time it comes out. Pull the elk out, and you'll know it's done because it's going to be beautifully caramelized. It's going to be steaming and just fall apart tender. We're utilizing some hand-harvested wild rice from the White Earth Reservation in Minnesota. It's really nutty. People are still hand-harvesting it in canoes every year. We're going to place the wild rice in the pot. We're going to place some sunflower seeds to cook with the wild rice, add the water, and then a little bit of salt. Put this over high heat, bring it to a boil, and let it simmer. Cook this rice until it's really nice and fluffy because we really want it to have a nice texture for the cakes that we're going to make. Once this rice is really cooked, we're going to put it right into the food processor while it's still hot, and we're going to pulse it just to make a nice paste out of it. Scrape this paste into a bowl, and we're going to add some more of the cooked rice so it has that texture of the whole rice. And then we're adding a little bit of salt, we're adding some of these wild spring onions, and we're adding a little bit of sunflower oil, and we're going to mix everything together to get it nice and evenly mixed. We're just going to use our hands and make a nice little rice ball, pack it lightly, and just form it into a nice cake. Heat up the griddle, put a little bit of sunflower oil on it, and place the cakes down. All we're looking for is a nice sear and just to warm it through. We just want to have, again, a little bit of caramelization on the outside of these cakes. And once it's seared really nice on one side, flip it over and let it caramelize on the other side. When the cakes are done, it's going to have a really nice crunchy sear on the outside and really nice and warm in the center. Wojapi is something that I grew up with as a child, and it's really one of my first childhood memories. It reminds me of being in my grandmother's kitchen. It's really just going to help the elk and all the pieces on the plate to kind of bring it together with a little bit of the acidity from the berries. To this pot, we're just going to add blueberries, blackberries, then raspberries, and then finally strawberries. Add some maple syrup to sweeten up the sauce, and add some water so it can cook down. Put this pot over a medium-high flame and bring it to a simmer. We're really just looking for it to start to bubble up and to see the berries start to break down. Once everything is broken down, use a whisk and just whisk it into a really nice, smooth, but yet chunky sauce. And once the sauce is done and well mixed, it's going to have a really nice body to it. You're going to see a little bit of berry pulp in there, and it's going to look great on the plate. All of these flavors and pieces really are a great representation of this area, particularly around Minneapolis, and they really fit well on this plate and really balance each other out. The first thing we're going to do is prep our garnish. I add a little bit of sunflower oil to this griddle, add a little bit of thinly sliced sunchoke, add some wild onion, and we're going to add fiddlehead ferns, which is one of the first things that pop up in the spring. And once we caramelize one side, we're going to flip it over and we're going to caramelize the other side.
I'm going to say, remember we talked about fiddlehead ferns in our non-vascular and vascular plants section.
We're going to remove them from the grill, set them aside, and get ready to plate them. To the plate, we're going to add one of the seared rice cakes. We're going to remove the elk from the braising liquid and take a nice little piece here or just break it apart. And you can see how tender it is the way it falls apart. We're going to add some of the pulled elk, garnish the plate with the sunchokes, some fiddlehead fern, and some of the seared wild onion. Spoon some of the Wojapi sauce to get right on the meat and a little bit right on the plate. And what we're looking for is just a little bit of sauce so it can intermingle with the rest of the flavors and really become a part of the dish. Finally, we're just going to garnish with a little bit of watercress, which will add a nice little bit of pepper to the whole plate. And there you have our cedar braised elk with wild rice cakes and Wojapi. The cedar braised elk is perfect at this point. It's fall apart tender, it's caramelized, it's going really well with the wild rice cake, which has a lot of great earthy tone, the spring vegetables with fiddlehead ferns, the grilled sunchokes, the grilled wild onions, the wojapi, which adds a really nice sweetness to the smokiness of the rest of the plate, and the little bit of fresh watercress to kind of add a little bit of accent to everything. This dish really does honor the culinary history and the flavors of the indigenous foods that are here from this region. It really showcases that there is a place and an immense importance of indigenous cuisine in today's world.
I don't know about you, but I'm ready for lunch. That looks delicious. I'm almost ready to drive up to Minneapolis and try that out. So that's that article, and it's about just a food, and then the rest of, and then these are just things we talked about last week. So I'm also going to put on the, I can't think of the word, Canvas announcements. I'll also put the articles, okay? And I don't know with the delayed day if we'll get to the articles, but I just want to give them out to you, and you can select one, or you can just read them all, you know, if you want to over, you know, over the holiday vacation. So I do wish everyone, again, a Merry Christmas and a safe holiday, and look forward to everybody coming back. So if there's anything, again, you know, we'll just again, we'll do the coding project when you get back. So make sure that's done and working on that as well. So, hey, take care, and God bless.